like to call the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of July 24th to order. Please note that Commissioner Ludden is absent. And if Commissioner Brower could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That leads us to the public comments section of the agenda. If anyone in the audience wants to speak on any item that's not on the agenda, now's your chance. Seeing none, that brings us to the presentation item. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, our first item this evening is our quarterly code enforcement report, and Luke Kirk has joined us.
Good evening, Chairman Hamilton and members of the Commission. I'm here to present the second quarter report for 2014. Essentially, during the period, we added 151 new cases to our carryover of 238 cases, closing 223 in the same period, which left us with 106 open. Attached to this agenda report, I have a number of exhibits, a couple of charts and maps, and rather than go through those in exhaustive detail, I thought I would open it up and see if you had any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this report or any code enforcement matter you may be concerned about. Thank you very much.
Any questions? All right. Thank you very much. So that leads us to the consent calendar, item number 2.
On this item, we did place on the dais amended minutes. They're in yellow, so we're asking that you adopt the amended minutes for July the 10th.
I'll move to approve amended minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Is that thing not going to, with Commissioner empty?
I think we yeah, it's not done yet. Let me just vote for it. Oh, yeah. We just put the absent,
All right. Agenda item passes 4-0. And you got to vote twice on that. Really just once. All right. That leads us to the public hearing, agenda item number 3. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. This is our zoning code amendment regarding promotional signs, and Stephanie Rojas has a report.
Good evening, Chair Hamilton and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you tonight is a zoning code amendment to the city's promotional signage and business regulations. This zoning code amendment is the result of an effort spanning over 1 year. The city receives feedback from the business community regularly through the city's Business Development and Attraction Program, the biennial business survey, and daily interactions with the community. In response to this collective feedback, last year the City Council directed staff and the Planning Commission to evaluate the city's current regulations as it relates to promotional signage and business regulations. A series of public workshops were held with the City Council and Planning Commission to refine the work plan and provide staff with ongoing input regarding the potential code modifications. The work plan also included changes to the campaign signs, as you may recall, and this was prepared in a separate zoning code amendment, which was recently approved by the City Council in June. The overall objective of this effort is to enhance business success, retention, and expansion without compromising the city's aesthetic image or existing sign code. The proposed zoning code amendment strives to achieve this objective through 3 primary goals, which are listed here. The first is expanding advertising and promotional opportunities for the business community. The second is maintaining aesthetics by implementing regulations that would prevent signage proliferation and encourage signs of high quality. And the third is maintaining public health, safety, and welfare by incorporating standards into the proposed zoning code amendment that would maintain traffic and pedestrian safety and minimize potential impacts to surrounding uses. So keeping these goals in mind, the proposed zoning code amendment is a comprehensive package of modifications to Title V and Title IX of the Lake Forest Municipal Code. It focuses on 4 key areas: temporary signage, window signage, temporary outdoor promotions, and live entertainment. The ordinance is 100 pages long, so I tried my best in your staff report to give you an overview of the main highlights of the ordinance through the summary tables in the report. This presentation will give you a quick recap of the information found in the summary tables, discussing each topic separately. So the first topic area is temporary signage. Currently, the only form of temporary promotional signage allowed in the code is a wall banner, which, of course, are banners attached to a building. Wall banners are widely used by businesses to advertise sales and promotions, and many businesses throughout the city take full advantage of the city's wall banner allowance. The proposed changes to the temporary signage regulations would accomplish several things. First, it would provide businesses with more wall banners, and second, it would add 2 new sign types to the code. So in addition to using wall banners to advertise promotions, business would also be able to use flag banners and a storefront signboard. With regard to wall banners, the proposed ordinance would make 3 changes. It would increase the allowable banner size from 50 to 100 square feet based on the size of the building. It would also increase the number of banners that can be displayed under one permit. So, for example, a business would be able to display 2 banners at once, one facing the parking lot and one facing the street. And the biggest change relates to how long banners can be displayed. It would double the banner allowance from 60 days to 120 days per year. Flag banners are a relatively new form of signage. They are attached to the ground rather than the building, and they've increased in popularity over recent years because they provide businesses with an attractive and easy-to-install alternative to traditional wall banners. And so the proposed ordinance will allow businesses to substitute their wall banner with a flag banner. As part of the ordinance, we created some specific regulations to limit the size, number, and placement of flag banners, and those regulations are summarized in this table on this slide. And the second new temporary signage type proposed as part of the ordinance is a storefront signboard, which includes menu boards, A-frames, and sandwich board signs. They're usually placed near a business's entrance, and they are often used by restaurants. And currently, these are considered portable signs, which are not currently permitted in the code. The proposed change would allow businesses to display one storefront signboard year-round without a permit. And again, since this is a new sign type, staff created regulations to limit the size, height, number, and placement of these sign types. The second topic area relates to window signage. Window signs are also used by businesses throughout the city to advertise sales and promotions and to generally attract attention to the business premises. And in short, the proposed changes would allow more window signage. However, this is balanced out by other regulations that are intended to maintain the aesthetic image of the city. Currently, businesses are only allowed to display a total of 4 square feet of window signage. The ordinance would increase window signage to 25% of the total window area per building elevation. So this would allow signs to be proportionate to the size of the building and window areas rather than applying a one-size-fits-all standard. The ordinance would also limit the number of window signs in order to prevent a cluttered appearance. And last, under C, a standard was added requiring all window signs to be maintained in good condition. So, for example, if posters are fading or tearing, they must be replaced. The ordinance was drafted to provide ample flexibility, so these changes would give businesses the choice of distributing signs throughout the window storefront or consolidating signs on 1 or 2 window panels. So this slide just gives you an example of 2 ways window signs can be displayed yet still comply with the proposed ordinance. So moving on to the third topic area, temporary outdoor promotions, which are commonly referred to as TOPPs. They're used by existing businesses to permit a wide range of outdoor commercial activities, such as parking lot and sidewalk sales, outdoor fundraisers, and outdoor merchandise displays. The proposed ordinance would make a large number of changes to the TOPPs. First of all, the regulations are currently found as a subsection of the Special Events Chapter of the Municipal Code. The proposed ordinance would move TOPPs into its own dedicated chapter in Title IX of the Code. And this new chapter would also expand on the regulations, including expanding on the definitions and the intent of the TOPP. The ordinance would also allow for more TOPPs, more signage allowed under a TOPP, and more operational standards in order to minimize potential impacts to surrounding uses. So the next few slides will just go into further detail on the bottom three bullet points, since the changes are pretty extensive. So currently, businesses may hold up to 40 days of outdoor promotions per year. The ordinance would increase this to 60 days per year. The ordinance would also require TOPPs to be spaced out by at least 7 days. This change was added to minimize impacts to surrounding businesses, because without this regulation, businesses can hold an event that lasts for 60 consecutive days, which may impose burdens on the area. And the biggest change to the TOPP regulations relates to signage. Currently, businesses may only display one banner in conjunction with a TOPP. The proposed ordinance would expand TOPP signage to include all of the signage types listed on this slide, which are also illustrated here. So that includes small balloons, pennants, A-frames, inflatables, flag banners, freestanding banners, human signs, and kiosk signs. Additionally, to keep up with future signage trends, there is a provision that would allow other signage types if they're consistent with the purpose and intent of the TOPP chapter and subject to the director's approval. The draft ordinance does not include a maximum number or a maximum to the size or number of signs that could be used in conjunction with a TOPP, and this was done to provide ample flexibility for TOPPs. However, all signs must be located in an outdoor promotion area, which must be indicated on a site plan approved by the city. So as I previously mentioned, one of the goals of this overall effort is to maintain the public health, safety, and welfare. So various regulations are proposed in the TOPP chapter, which with the overall intent of minimizing potential impacts to surrounding uses. So the proposed operational criteria, they're summarized here, and it would address safety, signage placement, noise, aesthetics, and parking. Now the last topic area. This one relates to entertainment, which may include live music, singing, performances, DJs, and karaoke. And the proposed changes are fairly straightforward. Currently, the code requires live entertainment to be conducted indoors, and the proposed ordinance would allow entertainment to be performed outdoors, for example, on a restaurant patio. However, outdoor entertainment would be subject to additional criteria which are listed on this slide, and the proposed regulations would limit the entertainment hours, the number of performers, and the maximum capacity of the entertainment venue. Additionally, businesses must be located at least 300 feet away from all residential homes, and speakers must be oriented inwards towards the business. And it is important to note that even with an entertainment permit, all entertainment must still comply with the city's noise control ordinance at all times. Now we're reaching the end of the presentation. So in summary, the proposed zoning code amendment is a comprehensive package of modifications to the city's regulations related to temporary signs, window signs, TOPPs, and live entertainment. The overall purpose of the proposed zoning code amendment is to expand advertising and promotional opportunities for local businesses while maintaining the city's aesthetic image and preserving public health, safety, and welfare. The Planning Commission serves as an advisor to the City Council for all matters involving amendments to the zoning code. Staff recommends the Planning Commission provide input and direction regarding the proposed zoning code amendment and adopt a resolution recommending the City Council approve the project. Staff will incorporate any of the Planning Commission's input into the draft ordinance before presenting it to the City Council in August. And based on timely action by the Council and Commission, staff anticipates the new regulations contained within the ordinance would go into effect this October. Staff has already tentatively scheduled a community workshop on December 3rd to provide businesses with an overview of any changes, code changes approved by the City. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the staff report. Any questions from the commission and staff? All right, I'll go first. Could you back up to the TOPP? That one. The A-frame. So I'm looking at the page 5 of 11 on the staff report. Page 27. Table 1, at the very bottom, storefront signboard. In the purpose, it says it allows businesses to display a sign near their entrance to advertise specials to pedestrians. How would that differ then from the TOPP signage? Could there be some overlap there?
The storefront signboard is intended to be a type of sign that businesses could use year-round, whereas the TOPPs are intended to be used for more of a limited duration for special events. So, businesses can utilize both types of signs.
If I could add to that, the TOPP oftentimes takes place in the parking lot, so it's more like a special sale or something. So this is saying that out in your parking lot area where you set up your event and you may have some merchandise and other things, that you could have an A-frame sign out there. So separate from the one that you would have year-round, close to the entry to your business, oriented towards pedestrians, walking along the walkway there. This is, the TOPP is kind of an event, and the intent of the code amendment is to give a lot of flexibility as to what kinds of signage can be out there in conjunction with the TOPP. So a little bit separate there.
No, thank you. I just envision a storefront wanting to put like one of those A-frames kind of closer, not maybe in the parking lot, to say, hey, today's specials are,
Yes, and they can do that. They can have year-round. They don't need to be having a temporary event or anything else. Under the proposed code change, all businesses could have, on a year-round basis, a small A-frame sign near their entry.
So I'm just looking at that A-frame sign, and I'm seeing the square footage, the area of Cafe Now Open, and I'm saying that's probably close to like 15-ish square feet, but we're saying 4 square feet for that, again, temporary signage. On page 27, 4 square feet for that storefront signboard. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that is an example of a sign that could be used at a TOPP event. And Stephanie, correct me, I don't believe we're limiting the size of an A-frame sign in conjunction with the TOPP. The one that's placed right outside your business is in a different category. That's the storefront signboard. That's not being illustrated on this slide here, and that does have size restrictions.
Yeah, I just see, for my fellow planning commissioners and those in the audience who are interested, this is about 2 square feet in area. So if the vice chair were to put his up next to mine, that would be 4 square feet. And I just see that being quite a bit. I think that's pretty small for a storefront signboard. Anyway, okay. So, any other questions of staff?
Yeah, I'm looking at the TOPP, and I'm in question as to the business can have 40 days of outdoor promotions per calendar year, so 4 permits per year. My question would be, are we going to also need to work something in this that would address potential adjoining businesses to all do this in a simultaneous way, but they're not creating somewhat of, for lack of a better term, a flea market kind of an environment? Is that what we want to do? My concern is if we're going to be getting people to come into the parking areas, and we get more than one business coming in at the same time, they think, oh, well, if 1 is good, 2 is better. If 2 is good, 4 works better, and so on. Could we potentially create a problem if we don't have some form of management of this?
In the ordinance, there aren't any standards proposed that would limit the number of outdoor promotions that can take place on the same property. However, as part of the permit process, they do need to get landlord approval, including, getting authorization from the property manager. So it is the responsibility of the property manager to, see who's holding these outdoor promotions and ensuring that it's all being done in a compatible manner.
Okay, that's good.
The biggest concern I have at the moment is on the live entertainment. It's page 10 of 11, page 32 in the packet, kind of the second half of the blow-up, where it talks about the number of entertainers. It says entertainment would be limited to 3 or fewer performers. That seems somewhat arbitrary to me. As a restaurant manager, although I'm not currently in a restaurant that is likely to use live entertainment, I've done a lot of catering events at restaurants, and it seems really strange if our goal is to make sure that we're doing things in a way that's aesthetically pleasing and not going to be disruptive to our neighbors, to say you can't have a string quartet playing at a wedding, but you could bring in Green Day. So, it's a 3-chord power rock for those who don't understand, but it's also only a trio. And so I don't think we need that. I mean, as long as we've got the noise restrictions, that's really the important thing. And most restaurateurs are not likely to say, I want to bring in a full symphony orchestra and give up 80% of my patio, because then what's the point? You don't have any room for anybody to enjoy them. I think the reality of the situation is going to strike its own balance as long as we're keeping the noise ordinances in place. I don't think the size should matter. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have another question. I'm looking here, and it doesn't indicate that there is any maximum number of TOPP signs, so it's possible for one business to have multiples of different signages all at the same time. Is that the way I'm understanding this?
That is correct.
All right, thanks.
I think I understood that a little differently. On page 8 of 11, TOPP signage, maximum size and number, may only display one wall banner up to 50 square feet in conjunction with an approved TOPP.
That's the old one.
I'm sorry, you're right. All right, any other questions?
Just a quick observation on that same subject. It does say that the wall and flag banners would be still subject to the limitations under Table 1, so there's some restriction, but it seems like for the most part it's allowing a case-by-case determination.
All right, this is a public hearing. As part of the public hearing, the public has the right to voice their opinion or ask questions. I can speak for all of us on the Commission by saying we truly appreciate all of your comments and questions, and to ensure this public hearing runs smoothly in accordance with approved procedures, staff and or the Commission will address any applicable questions at the end of everyone's opportunity to speak. Do we have any speakers? All right. So I guess we'll bring it back to the Commission for additional questions or discussion.
No, I won't be shy. I agree. I think that there's some, getting a lot of feedback here. There's some improvement that needs to be done in what we currently have in our code. I'm glad to see this being broken out and put into a separate category. I think that's a wise thing. I have no objections with a number of these things, but things I do have a concern over, and I think it's properly written on page 5 of 11. It says that under a temporary banner permit, businesses may display wall banner or flag banners. So I'm reading that as that not both. That I think that's a correct interpretation. I have a little concern over the use of storefront board signs. Nothing with signs, but what the potential is, and I don't see anything that might work with this. So I think it's going to come back to management within the structures itself. But my vision is that at the Orchard, we have all those little shops along there, and that all of a sudden, one day, all of them have a signboard. And now we're walking through there, and we have, I don't know how many shops are in there, but every one of them has a signboard, and I'm wondering, how's that going to look? And I don't have anything against them. I think they're cool. I mean, I can remember walking through a number of places, Santa Barbara, beachfront communities, other shopping areas where, in Manhattan, you've got these, or you're using them, and I'm trying to go back and visualize that. I just can't get my little, small, finite mind around what the Orchard might look like with 40 or 50 of those sandwich board signs out. So, just food for thought. Food? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, food. Yeah. I'm an advocate of food. So, those are just kind of the thoughts that I had on this. And the other thing is no maximum size or number of TOP signs, and I'm not particularly comfortable with that. And I think I'll be anxious to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say.
All right, I guess I'll go next. I kind of think the flag banner size and number is probably adequate. I kind of envisioned, again, 2 feet, 12 feet tall. I think that's a decent size for a flag banner. The storefront signboard, though, I still think that is such a small thing. If to answer your question, literally to get it any kind of size, you'd have to either have one that's to this size or one that's doubled up this way. So I'm not a big fan of 4 square feet. I don't know if 15 is going to be the right number, but like that A-frame that I think we have up there, it kind of feels like 15 to me. Maybe a little less. But I'm willing to go to a larger size there. I think I agree with you. I think the TOPPs, the quantity of them, I think that might be a good idea to say, what, 1 or 2 per permit, something like that. I also think that the way those go, it's only 60 days. Whereas the temporary signs can go 120 days. So I'm willing to go a little bit more on that. And I also think that we should maybe put some weekend, like a 3-day permit, so that they don't, burn up, just 6 weekends in a year. Because that would be the max they could do. Hey, we're just doing it for the weekend. Well, you get 10 days. I guess maybe they could do 2 weekends in a row. Then take a week off and do 12 weekends that way. But I don't know. I just think that maybe a 3-day permit option is a decent idea. I'm kind of going back to that wall banner size. 50 square feet is, that's on 4 of 11. I'm just not sure if that's pretty small. I think I'd be willing to go up to 75 for 0 to 49 feet. And maybe cap it at still at 100, but it just, I don't know. It just seems a little small to me. And that's all I have to say.
Well, now I have questions. So, the wall banners that Chairman Hamilton was just referring to, have you had complaints about the current size of wall banners?
As a planner that issues permits over the front counter, we, for the most part, from personal experience, businesses are pretty happy with the size. It's only the much larger businesses with very large buildings, because a 50 square foot banner on a very large building seems just unproportionate, unproportional to the size of the building. So the majority of the concerns that we have received are more relative to the larger buildings, because these banners can also be used for businesses that are located in the large industrial buildings. So if, say, for example, Wet Seal wanted to do like a warehouse sale or Oakley, you can imagine what a 50 square foot banner would look like on such a large industrial building.
Okay, so the 3-day weekend permit, has anybody ever asked for something in that regard that you know of?
Businesses have asked that because they primarily want to focus their advertising and specials on the weekends, because that's when they do generate more businesses. So that request has been made in the past.
How would you say that, or I remember my question from the wall banner, sorry. Where did you come up with, well, I know you had 50, so where did we come up with 75 and 100 as a limit to the Oakley size type of building? Did we just pull that, or is that, do we look at other cities and they have regulations that?
Yeah, we did it similar to the regulations that we have for permanent wall signs. So if you look in the ordinance, you can see that there's a similar kind of step-up feature, where for permanent signs, the different thresholds are similar to the wall banners. So, the size that we came up with was kind of based off of the different levels within the permanent wall signs.
Okay. The TOPP, Commissioner Hamilton had mentioned 1 or 2 per permit. I don't know that I would agree with that. I think that if I'm going to put on my one 10-day event, my one of how many are we having for one of, thank you, 4 10-day events, that I would want to have more than 1 or 2 signs to promote my T-shirt sale or whatever it is I'm having. So, and then I guess I would go back to Commissioner Verplank, your concern about the sandwich signs all up and down. If Andrew's concern is they're not big enough, and your concern is there might be too many of them, I think we need to kind of figure out that. I think maybe that's why it's just, sorry, Andrew, but maybe that's why it isn't as large of a sign as we're seeing in the A-frame up on that wall for the temporary signs. So, and I'm trying to think of, like, if you go out inside in front of a restaurant, is that a typical, where did we come up with this 4 square foot sign as the A-frame? Is that something that we've looked at other restaurants in other cities? I know that I've seen them even in our town too.
The 4 square feet originally, we're going to go back to window signs. We had 4 square feet allowed per window signs because we envisioned at the time we did that code update that was about the size of a menu. You could put a menu in your window so someone could come up and look at the menu. We just carried that over into the outdoor the sign we're talking about.
Okay.
Outdoor board sign.
Right, and I think our other consideration was these walkways in front of the stores, we have to comply with handicap access as well. So having a lot of signs or large signs, that could be an impediment to handicap access. And some of the stores, we like to encourage the outdoor dining, so a couple of tables and chairs out there. So we looked at some of we do have some centers in town that have put out signs, and I would agree with Cheryl that they were, generally a small size. You would walk right past it. They're not meant to be seen or read from the parking lot. It's a very pedestrian-scaled sign. So that was our thought behind those storefront sandwich board signs.
Well, maybe if it went up in height another foot or two, then you would still be within handicap access, and then it might help your concern about it being too small of signage?
And I forgot to mention, too, that we don't have a width limitation on those storefront signboards. So literally, they could be like an inch tall. And let me make sure I'm thinking of this. 48 feet long. There's no restriction on the width, if I'm understanding
That's
correctly.
right. The restriction is going to come from, you have to comply with handicap access. So that would, and you'd want a legible sign. So we're trying to be flexible and allow each business to have a variety of configurations that aren't overly large and don't impede the pedestrian access.
If I might jump in here, what I don't want to do is I don't want to try to overregulate, and I think the purpose of this is not to do so. So if we're dealing with this, we've got business owners, we've got property managers, and we've got ADA regulations that the property managers are in fact responsible for adhering to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we stay the course of what I see put out here and don't try to step in the middle of something, if there's a problem, then they'll have to deal with that, and it won't come back. We won't be looking to clean up that mess. Is that what I'm hearing? If there's too many signs that create problems and we're interfering with accessibility, that's not something that the city would then be having to exercise any control over. That should be between the owners, the property managers, and the businesses. Is that what I'm understanding?
There is a provision in the ordinance, it's C, and it says that storefront signboards may be displayed on publicly accessible private walkways provided a California Building Code compliant pathway is maintained. So the city would still enforce the accessibility requirements as well.
Okay. So if we get into a situation wherein we're having problems with this, and now we've got an enforcement issue, are we anticipating that by what we're doing here tonight, or potentially doing here tonight? I'm just asking a question in your own mind.
Right. No, if there is a problem, it would be a typical code enforcement situation. Someone may call and say, hey, would you take a look at this sign? The property managers typically walk through the centers. They may catch it. Much like sometimes business owners, put some tables and chairs that they haven't come in and gotten. And if the code enforcement our personnel are in the shopping centers often, and they'll just stop in and talk with the business. It's we don't see it as a problem.
Okay. Typically, given weekends are going to be higher traffic times, code enforcement is not working weekends.
Well, again, this storefront sign is designed primarily that you can have it all the time if you would like. So it could be something they'll probably change the text, the daily specials, whatever. But it's a pedestrian-scaled sign that will inform the shoppers as they're walking past the stores.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, any other comments or I guess I'll entertain a motion.
Actually, sorry, I do have just a quick question to make sure I'm understanding correctly. I know, I think it was Commissioner Verplank that had mentioned, what happens if I don't remember which shopping center he had said at the time, but I mean, if we say we're, the 99-cent store right there at Altora and Rockfield, and there's a bunch of little mom and pop places along the sidewalk as you go around to the Guitar Center. Each of those, if each of those businesses asks for a temporary a TOPP, they want to have a sidewalk sale event, and they're saying based on our percentage of this overall frontage of the building, we're allowed to have 2 signs, or we're allowed to have this banner or that banner. If they all do it at the same time, I guess I didn't feel comfortable that I heard an answer as to whether or not we have some control over saying, there's still a total amount of frontage for the building. And so, no, you can't all do it at the same time, because now, even though you've each gone and separately applied, suddenly we end up with a festival in the parking lot that's twice what would have been allowed had the property manager done it.
Right.
So-
I think one of the things we have is we look back on our past history, and this TOPP has been a promotional event that we've allowed in the code for many, many years, and we allow it 4 times per year, and so we're increasing the frequency. We have not had a problem. Again, and a lot of that is because of the strong property management that we have in a lot of our centers, and so it hasn't been an issue in the past that we've had too many doing it simultaneously. Not to say, some of these proposals are different than our existing signage ordinance, and if we determine that it's overly generous, or we're not creating the aesthetic image, it could be dialed back. But these types of issues haven't come up in the past. Perhaps now with allowing more signage with the TOPP, we'll have to see what happens with that.
Okay, and then just because it's kind of my pet issue, I'm going to go back to the live entertainment. I know I mentioned during the initial questions my concern over the three performer limit. I would like to see I guess my question is, structure-wise today, we're recommending that we're voting yea or nay on whether or not to recommend this as presented to City Council.
You can modify anything that's recommended, and as we noted as Stephanie noted in the discussion about the live entertainment, we limit we have other limitations, and so by not limiting the number of performers, that would be in keeping with letting the business have the maximum amount of flexibility, but setting forth the performance standard. You can't exceed the noise ordinance, and let them decide. Like you mentioned, you wouldn't want to give up a lot of your patio space by having, many performers there. So if you would like to recommend that, then we're open to any amendments that you want to be part of your recommendation package.
I would be comfortable moving to present this as presented, send this to City Council as presented, with the exception of striking the per performer, number of performers from it. I don't know if I've got a consensus on bringing that motion. I don't want to waste everybody's time.
I'd be open to that. Would you be open to weekend permits?
Actually, I think that's a great idea. I would like nothing more. I've been in the restaurant business a long time, and been in a lot of places where we didn't want to sign up all week long. We wanted to be able to put it out for Saturday and Sunday brunch to say, hey, we're here in the morning, we're not normally. And, and if we're tied to the current wording, we would burn through that permit relatively quickly and not be able to maximize its efficiency. So I do like the idea of adding a provision for a shorter term permit.
And I should have asked if the commission would be open to that.
Well, I'm not sure how staff would regulate that. If you take their 10 days and your one permit now can be times 3, so now they have 18. And so it just seems to me that might be a difficult thing to regulate and keep it fair to everybody. So I don't know if maybe we start with the 60 days and then we can always go back, right, Gail? And if we find that there are businesses that want to have this more often, but it seems to me that we might be just putting up our hand and saying, oh, this could be a problem when maybe it's not.
If I could make a suggestion on that issue, I think if we look on page 4 of 11 on the banner display period, the proposed change on that particular issue, up to 120 days per calendar year, and then a set number of permits, 4 permits per year, 30-day permit. If we were to simply, on that particular example, if we were to strike the 4 permits per year, 30 days per permit, and just say you can have up to 120 days per year, use it how you want. In theory, you might have somebody choose to keep a banner up for 6 months, but most people aren't going to run a 6-month sale, so they're not going to want to do that. And if they do, well, now you've blown your wad and you're done. I don't necessarily see that as a problem. So that's a potential way around what we're talking about. Or even increase the number of permits per year to 18 permits per year with no individual permit to exceed 30 days. And so that if they want to do a 3-day and then a 30-day somewhere else, they can, but they could just do 18 weekends and have their 120 days. So, and the math doesn't work on that. I apologize. I'm not an accountant, but you know what I mean. So.
If I could offer some perspective, in the past, what we've had, 2 permits, 30 days per permit. So 2 solid months out of 12, you would see the banner up there. And one of the changes, we'd have to work with the numbers, because as we go to weekend permits, if you had 3-day permits and there are 52 weeks in a year, and we're going to allow a total of 120 days, that would be just about every single weekend the permits would be up. So we were trying to, that's the balance we're seeking. We don't necessarily want banners up on every store every weekend. But yet, we're looking for that balance, and you can see what a large increase. We've essentially doubled the amount of time, and with those permits, they can cover many weekends. You may choose to take it down during the middle of the week for some reason and put it back up, but you would have, that was the balance we were trying to strike.
And I think in addition, you don't want someone to have the opportunity to do like a 1-day permit and come in 120 different times.
Right. So if the desire was a 3-day permit, I think we'd want to work with the total number of permits or the total number of days, because essentially we're getting close to having a banner up every weekend for the entire year.
Yeah, I think the GLPPs really resolve that issue too. I mean, because you've got 6 permits a year. You can have your 3-day weekends over that. And you have a 10-day period of time. You just coordinate your sale over that 3-day weekend, I think. And whether it's at the beginning or it's at the end, however you work that, and that's independent of the other one, the other banner display period. So the businesses are getting a lot. Yeah, we're expanding this tremendously.
All right. Sounds like...
I at least would be comfortable with, like I said, leaving it the way it is, especially based on the extra explanations. So,
can I just ask Commissioner Bauer if you would be interested in maybe 5 or 6 entertainers as opposed to no number at all? I mean,
I certainly would think at least 4 because quartets are fairly common, but I think a number in general is arbitrary, and I don't like any. I personally am not comfortable with arbitrary rules. Just the idea of it, whatever number we picked would be arbitrary in that sense. I would be agreeable to, raising the number in order to get it approved. I would certainly vote for that. Yes.
The 3 came from where? arbitrary?
There was no scientific basis on that. We did look at the overall, the size of the patio, so we wanted to have a comfortable space, not allow for grand types of outdoor entertainment, because I think we're setting ourselves up for difficulty in complying with the noise ordinance. So, again, we have some other limiting factors that we're proposing in there. So the number of entertainers is not, probably isn't the most limiting factor.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Commissioner Brower. I think this is almost an unnecessary limitation because, first of all, the proprietor should not want to use that much space. And they're taking, every time they put an entertainer in, they're taking at least a potential customer out of their mix, and that's not what they want to do. And the other thing, the big one, is the noise ordinance. You get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 entertainers out there, you just harpooned yourself. So what's the point? I'd be okay with striking that and then moving this along. Matter of fact, if there's no other comment, I'll even make a motion to that. Want me to go?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we forward Zoning Code Amendment 6-14-4507 to the City Council for approval with the condition that under the live entertainment section, the phrase "entertainment limited to 3 or fewer performers" be removed. And I would even close the public hearing at that point.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's vote. All right. Item passes 4-0. On to agenda item number 4.
Yes, this item is a site development permit for a facade remodel and building addition, and Jennifer Mansour is here with the staff report.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This item is for a facade remodel, building addition, and parking lot modifications to the existing Subaru dealership located on Rockfield Boulevard. The project is proposed in 2 construction phases for financing purposes. The first phase of the project includes a facade remodel and the parking lot modifications. The remodel includes the replacement of an existing blue roof feature and the stacked stone tower on the front of the building, with a new parapet with silver metallic composite panels and a new slate tower element. The entire building will be repainted gray with a blue band below the cornice. And I'm going to pass around the color board because it's kind of hard to imagine some of these colors. And also it has the example of the slate tower and the composite panels. The first phase of construction also includes minor modifications to the parking lot. The approved parking lot layout for the dealership was approved in 1991. Kind of over the years, the parking layout and the display areas have been modified without any approvals from the city. The applicant is proposing to maintain these parking areas with some additional modifications will ensure that they're meeting all of the city's parking requirements. The second phase of the project includes a 1,400 square foot addition to the vehicle showroom and service areas facing Rockfield Boulevard on the side of the building. The addition will utilize the same architecture and color scheme that you just saw as Phase 1 remodel. The addition will also include a new patio area for the employees. Both phases of the project are in compliance with the city's zoning code requirements, and the remodel will modernize the architecture of the building, which currently exhibits a dated appearance, while incorporating many of the design elements that are consistent with the city's design guidelines. Accordingly, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving this project. The applicant is in the audience tonight, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? All right, I'll open the public hearing. This is a public hearing As part of the public hearing, the public has the right to voice their opinion. We value your comments, and we have a speaker here, Kirk Nelson. If you could just restate your name and your city of residence, I'd appreciate it.
My name is Kirk Nelson. My name is Kirk Nelson. I live in Laguna Beach, California. I'm the designer working through the Subaru standards for dealerships nationwide. And I'm working with Frank Irvine Subaru on this remodel and addition, and would be available for any questions that you may have, although I encourage you to approve the project.
All right, I have a question.
Yes.
Now, I know that you know what city you're in,
Yes.
and you probably also have seen like the whole Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and that whole like kind of thing. If you've heard of, are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, your name is Frank's Irvine Subaru here in Lake Forest. Is there any consideration for somehow putting? I appreciate you've got your brand Irvine, but somehow put Lake Forest in there somewhere. You could be the Irvine, Frank's Irvine Subaru of Lake Forest, like on your sign.
My name is Kirk Nelson, and I really have no ownership entity with the project. I am, however, the designer of it, and as we process through signage under a separate permit, as is outlined in this submittal, I think those are things that might be able to be discussed during the signage process. I think the cosmetics of the building and the improvements we're trying to make from what was originally built in 1978 are substantial and a great beautification to the city and show well. As far as the naming of it, I really have no ability to even comment on it. But I will relay your comment to the ownership.
Sure, and I think people like to shop Lake Forest. They have that hometown pride, and so you have both Irvine and Lake Forest on there. You get two different cities who get excited about shopping at a Subaru.
Your comments are extremely valuable, and I will definitely relay those to ownership in my next meeting with them.
The owner of the business is also here. He said I think he'll speak to that.
I figured I might be able to coax you.
Well, my name's Sergio Sanchez. Actually, Frank is my father. He's actually the owner. But I'm the director of operations. And we are actually, as far as Subaru is concerned, we're not even Frank's Irvine Subaru anymore. We're just Irvine Subaru. And through the years, they have really gotten very tight with the naming of the businesses and how that affects search results on websites and Google and all these kind of things. So you can't really change the official name. And like I said, they actually had us drop Frank out of it. And if we weren't Irvine Subaru, then someone else would be Irvine Subaru. And we're just kitty corner to Irvine Auto Center. So when we first named it back in '91, that did come into play, and we thought, okay, well, what is the most recognizable city in the county? And although we're very proud to be in Lake Forest, and we're actually very glad we're in Lake Forest, by the way, that seemed to be the best name to use to secure success. And our success helps revenues for the city through the sales tax, and that's really it in a nutshell. Again, signage-wise, any sign we put up has to be approved by Subaru, and if we don't get this modification upgrade done, we might not be a Subaru dealer. So it's very critical that, and they mandate exactly what it's supposed to look like, and they're not very easy to change, and they've actually not gone into certain cities because those cities refuse to build or approve what they want. So we're really kind of the little guys in this situation. But if Subaru will let us put City of Lake Forest on one of our signs, I'd be more than happy to do so.
I appreciate your comments.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Sure, Jerry.
The former Hungry Hunter property that you also occupy, are there any plans forthcoming that might be for enhancing that building at all to tie it in with this structure?
Well, I think back in 04, possibly 03, 04, we spent thousands of dollars reviewing different options on that building. And between the ingress-egress issue there, the fact that we don't own that property, we have a very long-term lease, the expense required to modify that building, and how that comes into play, possibly even the extra noise level from pagers. We're just across the boulevard from a residential area. A lot of things we're taking into consideration. Our biggest hope would be to put better signage there. I'd like to eventually have some kind of better display in the grassy area in between down the road. And all those things will be considered in the future, but we can't consider that until we actually secure the franchise for the future by this process.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Any other speakers? Want to? And if you don't mind, could you fill out a speaker card too, since you said something? All right, we'll bring it back to the commission for comments. Questions of staff
Thank you.
or a motion?
Oh, I'll have a question.
Okay, question.
Gail, we had a conversation about a concern I had. Did you find any visual?
Jennifer looked into that, so I believe the conversation we had is whether or not that they're adding a restroom in the remodel, and whether or not the restroom doors are visible from
Yeah,
the glazing on the exterior of the building. So Jennifer looked at that.
yeah, it's a restroom actually for the employees, and so it faces the other direction. So it's just a wall facing Rockfield Boulevard. The customer restrooms are existing, and they're facing the alleyway, so they wouldn't be impacted by this project.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments?
Just a quick observation. When I first looked at this, I looked at the rendering, I thought, oh, that looks like Irvine. And, but it is, albeit in the city of Lake Forest, it is still, for all intents and purposes, part of the Irvine Auto Center. And so tying it to that visual made sense, and I got over it pretty quickly. So.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to move to approve staff recommendation as presented and move this project forward and close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? You know, I just want to say we love you being in Lake Forest. And we don't necessarily want you to change your name. But just before the vote, I thought I'd say we'd love you to stay
Yep.
in Lake Forest.
Lake Forest Subaru at the Irvine Auto Center. It hits all the search terms.
All right, let's vote. All right, passes 4-0. Congratulations. And that leads us to director's comments.
I have no comments this evening.
And city attorney comments?
None tonight.
So the planning commission comments.
No comment.
All right. No one else?
Just that I miss Tom.
No comments.
All right, we're adjourned.